That could potentially be Lebanon. Like I
Hmm?
went there last year when it was literally in a war with Israel.
You chose the adventure.
Right. It's because I had a friend who's working for the UN and he's based
Mm-hmm.
in Beirut. He
Mm-hmm.
literally told me like, "Are you sure you want to come?" Because they were throwing attacks every now and then. And
People
there
were told
was
to leave and you're going in. Oh my God.
So I decided to go anyways. And I remember when I was entering the border, the immigration officer literally told me, like, asked me, why are you here? And then I said, I'm here for tourism. And he literally said, good luck. Because you don't really hear that from an immigration officer, like, good luck, you know?
Ouch,
Um,
ouch.
so Japan Rail offers what's called the Session Junhachi Kibu. It means youth 18 ticket. So originally, it's something that's for students to return home after a semester, and they sell it at a really cheap price.
Nice.
As long as it's within 5 days, you can ride on trains, unlimited train rides within Japan. But
Wow.
the thing is, you can only take the slowest trains. You can't take Shinkansen, high-speed trains.
Okay.
But it's unlimited, and actually anybody can just go in.
I was going to ask, do you need a student ID to get the ticket?
You don't need it. Anyone can
Don't
get
need
it.
it.
So you can stay young forever.
Moral of the story was nice. You can stay young forever.
I love it. You know, I was like 26, already worked for a couple of years, but I was using that.
Yeah. When I go to a bar and they ask me for my ID, I'm very happy. I'm like, oh yeah. Please see my ID. I'm beyond 18. Thank you. It's like that. Very nice. Today's guest is what I'd call a professional collector of stories. Because honestly, how else do you describe someone who has traveled to over 60 countries, lived in Colombia, worked in Switzerland, wandered through Italy, and yet, despite all that, still insists that Japan is his true love? And that guest for you is the storyteller Boyang. Welcome to this episode of Misadventures of a Sneaker, and I am your host, Revati. So, our guest today, Boyang, is someone who makes it a point to visit Japan at least once a year and explore a different part of it each time. He has biked across Japan, camped under the stars, taken the slowest of the slow trains to Hokkaido, chilled in the Japanese onsen, the hot springs, hiked its mountains, and even studied Japanese at the very university where his favorite author, Murakami, once studied and wrote. Basically, if Japan had a loyalty program, Boyang would be platinum for life. And the best part, he's charming, he's funny, and his stories after stories after stories. So buckle up because this episode is going to feel like a bike ride across Japan. Scenic, unexpected, and full of surprises. But before that, let's take a quick little break and then jump in. Hey, do you know we've recently launched a travel journal? A journal that's perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking in little memorabilia. Pick one for yourself or gift it to your friend or to a kid. It'll be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find the link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and thank you. All right, so let's welcome our guest. Hi, Boyang. Welcome to my podcast. We are called The Misadventures of a Sneaker. It's a travel podcast where I have a bunch of guests coming and talking about a lot of their experiences while traveling or traveling to a destination and things like that. So both of us have a common friend. She's Gayatri, and I met her sometime end of last year, and I was talking to her about the podcast. Her husband's been on the show earlier as well, Rahul. Fantastic stories about a trip to Sikkim. And while she was sharing a lot about the stories that I was sharing with her, she thought about you and she said, oh my God, I have this friend. He's never at one place. So wherever I ping him, it's a standard question, which place are you in? And phenomenal story. So I'm just going to try and connect you guys. And I'm really thankful to Gayatri that she did this. because just in the first call with you, Boyang, you told me so many of your travel stories. So I'm really excited about this conversation with you. Thank you so much for coming to my podcast and welcome.
Thank you, Rati. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation, and looking forward to the conversation today.
Yes, there's a huge hype created around you, so you have very high expectations for me.
No pressure at all.
I didn't say that. But we've been chatting and we've been speaking a lot over the last month and a half too. And the variety of stories and experiences that you told me was so fun. So tell me, Boyan, tell me something about yourself. We've not met before, and we've just been speaking over Zoom and WhatsApp and things like that. Tell me something about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? All of it.
Sounds great. So I'm Boyang, originally from China, born and raised there, and I think I lived in China for about 20 years, and then moved abroad mostly for the last 15 years, and spent time in Japan, the US, Latin America, Singapore, and up until now, and from last year, I've been in Switzerland and right now I'm working in an NGO focused on promoting public-private partnership to basically companies, governments across the world. Yeah, pleasure to meet you and your listeners.
Oh, very excited, and on behalf of listeners, also very excited. Wonderful. So you just rattled away some names of countries that you said that you've stayed in. So these are places you've stayed in when you said US, Singapore, Japan, of course, China's where you've lived for large part of your life. These are other places that you've lived in?
Yeah, those are the places where I spent a significant amount of time, either as a student or work. So this is apart from the countries I've been to as a visitor.
Wow. And then when we were talking earlier, you said you've traveled to 60 plus countries. So this is something that you do usually as a sabbatical of sorts or between jobs, or, I mean, how is it? 60 is a big number, right?
Right.
It's not like you can just go on a vacation and then do that many. So how do you usually plan your travel?
Yeah, I think I only started traveling abroad when I was like 19 or so. And I think initially I just went to places when there are meetings or events for students. And I think when I studied abroad in Colombia during my university, I traveled to a few places. And that's kind of when I met a lot of people who are just backpacking around South America. And I realized that's also a way of life. And so I think since then, I kind of wanted to take some time off from, my normal study or professional life and just explore the world. So between 2013 to 2015, I kind of took 1.5 to 2 years of gap years. And then that's when I had sufficient time to explore many parts of the world, in Asia and Latin America and so on. And then since then, it's just kind of every year I try to take advantage of my vacations and just visit places.
Beautiful. So very often, when I meet someone who enjoys traveling, we usually say that there's a seed to all of this, which is usually something that you've done when you were a child. It's a habit that you get built, or it's a curiosity that gets built when you are a child. So do you have any such memories of traveling with family, traveling with your friends when you were in school, or early college when you were in China?
Yeah, I had many of these trips. I remember my first ever trip abroad was a trip to the United States for a Model United Nations in Harvard, and I went with friends from my college. But I think I kind of clearly remember that from the beginning of the trip, I really wanted to explore the country on my own. So I didn't book any of the hostels with them, so I just stayed by myself. Although I, from occasionally met with them for dinner and whatnot, but I think this appetite for solo trip is just very acute in the beginning of my travel. I just kind of maintained that even until this day. I mean, occasionally I would travel with friends, but I think especially for exploring new countries and countries that I think are adventurous, solo travel is my preferred mode of traveling.
Oh, wow. Why solo versus with friends? You used to have a strong preference. Why is that? Like, what's your observation or opinion that you have between
Mhm.
the two?
The reason why I said when I visit new countries or countries that are adventurous or countries that I
Mm-hmm.
just have a strong preference for, when I go there on my own, I feel like I have complete freedom and control over my time and how I want to explore the place.
That's
And
true.
also, I don't like to aggressively plan when I travel because some people have I don't know, like get down to like every single minute what you'll be
Yeah.
doing. I don't
Five
do
things
that.
to see for 5 days, that kinds.
So
Yeah.
I like the freedom and just having the control over my agenda and just not having to go to places based on a routine because I think that also helps you to discover new things or unexpected
Definitely.
things. Yeah. But I would say I wouldn't do that if I go to Phuket or Bali or Copenhagen, as I spent last weekend with friends there. I think for these places, it's better to go with friends.
Yeah. Yeah. So places where maybe you can chill for a larger part of your day. So when you go to Maldives, what adventure can you do except maybe go for great scuba dives there?
Right.
So in some places like that, chilling with friends or family, etc., is a great idea. Whereas places that you go hiking or through the forests and things like that, probably it's a good point. It's a good point. The flexibility is a big plus
That's
point.
right.
So from your earlier travels, and not necessarily when you were in school or college and things, but from your earlier memories of one of the most crazy, in quotes, craziest experiences that you've had or countries that you've been, what would you think of?
Okay.
I know you have a list in your head.
Yeah. Definitely have been on some kind of crazy adventurous trips. I would say probably. I actually think my trip to India is one of those most memorable.
Oh, tell
Uh,
us more.
I spent about, I think, 50 days in the country. So first I flew to Chennai for an
Mm-hmm.
event. It's the World University Debating Championship. And
Mm-hmm.
then I actually didn't know, I didn't have a return flight. So one-way flight, I didn't know how long I would stay in the country. Because I was on my gap year, I really didn't have to go back to work or anything. And
Mm-hmm.
then just started exploring the country, just taking buses. It's a fascinating country with vast differences between different regions. And
Yeah.
I went to places that are totally kind of out of this world. I remember going to Hampi. You see the geography there, and I was just totally blown away. And I went to Goa. It kind of feels like Macau. It's just very different. And then I went all the way to Rajasthan. In Rajasthan, you have like the Golden City, the Blue City, Pink City.
Mm-hmm.
Like each city is just so different. It's something that comes out of a J.R.R. Tolkien novel for me. It's it's like you keep it really original. I think that's really cool. Unlike
Uh-huh.
in places in China, for example, I think due to mass urban planning, we
Mm-hmm.
kind of have the sense that a lot of the cities lost a lot of originality. We want to keep things similar.
Oh, that is true, very true. I mean, go to places like Hampi and all. I love that place. I mean, I almost say that my experience traveling across Hampi is very similar to how it is in Cambodia when you go to Siem Reap and Angkor Wat and all that. I would place both in the same pedestal in terms of experience, in terms of stories that you get to hear there. Oh my, I'm a huge fan of historically relevant places. It's so beautiful to listen to the stories. Okay, so India is coming. India is one of your top numbers. But like, why did it come under the crazy category when you thought of India?
Because I think that first there are a lot of uncertainties. Like at the time, I knew very little about the country. I didn't know how to navigate the public transportation because in media, you always see all these crowded trains. So you would be like, how am I going to book a ticket?
Yeah.
And I went all the way north in the mountains in the Himalayas, about 2 or 3 hours away from Shimla. It's kind of close to the border with Tibet, and
Mm-hmm.
it snowed heavily. And so for 3 days,
Okay.
I had like the road was blocked. I had to stay in the mountain, and I lost my phone on the truck.
Oh,
So
truck.
yeah, I think eventually had to take a truck to get to the town.
So my eyes popped out when you said lost the phone, and then my eyes double popped out when you said truck. Seriously, even I have never traveled in a truck, by the way. Okay.
Yeah, I think because it snowed so heavily, the bus couldn't get you
Mm.
to the village, so I had to jump on on a truck, and somehow I think I lost my phone, and then I couldn't contact my family. But eventually, because these villages are quite small and they're kind of connected, so I just told my hotel manager that I lost my phone, and they actually helped me to get back my phone after 3 days.
Wow.
When the road transportation was like recovered.
It
So
opened up, yeah.
yeah, so that was kind of like a fascinating
Insane.
story.
Yes. Wow. Up in the north, this thing happens quite frequently if you do it go during the winters. I don't know if you notice this, while traveling in the Himalayan parts of India, a lot of roads in the different Himalayan regions in India are maintained by the border army forces. So they put up very interesting road signages across a lot of these places. So it is all the way, all the border areas between from Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And if you even go to the northeast, a lot of the road signages, travel carefully and don't speed up and things like that. They are mostly put up by the border organization, and they are known for having a sense of humor. So they put up wacky road signs, be gentle on my curves, and it's so funny. I've been dying to do a trip there and take pictures of, all of, because I remember all of this from from multiple travels that happened many years ago. But then I never thought of running a podcast. So now I really am itching that I have to go back and take pictures and, put it out to show people the kind of road signages they put up. They have got a really good sense of humor. Very nice. So you said that you spent time in Latin America as well, right? You said Colombia, studying there and all. I am sure you must have had some crazy experiences in Colombia. So I have done a podcast, I think two episodes with folks who have done. There was one who did a 6-month sabbatical trip across Latin America, multiple countries. He had a bunch of stories, gun related ones, of course,
Wow.
drug related ones, meeting drug lords and all that. I mean, these are
Wow.
all like so exciting. You only see this in Narcos and all that, right? You don't see this in real life. What were your experiences like, and when you were, traveling around that part of the world?
Yeah, it seems that your friend had a fair share of his stories in the region, despite just traveling around. I would say if you go to places like Colombia, Colombia is definitely one of the more special places or countries for me in the region, given that I've spent more time there. And when you talk to the locals, they would really appreciate foreigners who go there, and they're very welcoming and friendly. And I think one thing you notice is that it's actually not narcos like every day. Sometimes.
Oh no! I like the drama.
And I think if you try to, stay cautious and be street smart, most of the times you're still fine as a traveler. You can get out of the country in one piece. Although I would say I'm probably not one of the most street smart persons or unscrupulous. I've got myself into situations where it's a little bit undesirable.
I like how you're building up, like introduction, body, conclusion. You said I'm not the most. That was the introduction. So I'm now excited about what actually happened to you.
Yeah, I try to, blame on myself, not the country. Yeah, I remember last time when I was there, during my last days there, I made a trip to Medellin, and Medellin, since the pandemic, has grown into a city for digital nomads, and it's a beautiful city, great weather. So I remember one night I was spending time in this bar area with a friend, and then my friend had to go back, so I decided to explore the region on my own. And at the time I was going back to Singapore very soon, and while I'm in Colombia, I should take advantage of the opportunity, try to get myself my fair share of marijuana.
Right, of course.
I'm not sure about its current status, but it's kind of all over the place and it's not difficult to get. So I went to get a joint and then started to smoke the joint near the river, a little bit away from the bars. And then I saw a couple who just walked over to me and said, can I borrow a lighter? Usually in this instance, I would be a little bit careful, but I think because it's guy and the girl, maybe they're not as risky or dangerous. We started to have a conversation and they asked, what are you doing here by yourself? And so I just thought they're friendly locals and And then they asked me about, what are you smoking? And then they happily shared with me their joint, which seems to be a higher quality one.
Mhm.
And so the conversation continued, and they asked me if I wanted to grab a drink. So we walked
Mhm.
over to a bar. But when we sat down, and I realized that I started to kind of lose my conscience a little bit, and it was
Ooh.
it was getting so bad that I actually found it a bit difficult to concentrate or focus on the menu. Um, and then I realized, oh, probably this is not a typical marijuana joint that they offered. Maybe it's something else. And I think
Wow.
it's only because that I read in the news, just
Mm-hmm.
a few weeks earlier, that some foreigners are getting drugged in bars in Colombia by friendly locals.
Okay.
And then the next day they would wake up in the middle of nowhere, or some people have lost their lives. And then it's at that moment I realized that this is probably not just marijuana, it's probably something stronger. And also because the guy kept mentioning that he's gay and the girl is available and single. And I think the
Oh.
fact that they really focus on that fact is probably leading somewhere else after this drink. So it was the time I realized that I probably in a dangerous situation. I told them I'm going to use the bathroom, so I went into the bar and I told the bartenders what's happening to me with my limited conscience at the time because I was literally almost not able to express myself.
Oh my God. And language was not a barrier there?
Right. So I didn't mention this earlier, but I actually majored in Spanish, so it's fully
Wonderful.
fluent.
Okay.
And
That's taken care of.
otherwise, it could be another type of challenge as well.
Okay, okay. So you went and told the bartender in whatever sense that you were in.
Yeah, and they immediately got it and asked me to sit in the bar while they deal with the situation. So I felt totally taken care of. And so I could remember
Wow.
they called the police, and the police came like in 5 to 10 minutes, and they were chasing after this couple. I saw them
Wow.
running uphill, and so after that,
Ooh.
I was just feeling really bad. So I asked them to take me to the
Wow.
hospital, and they
Oh,
recovered
wow.
gradually since then. But I literally felt that I was totally going to pass out if I didn't get out of that situation.
Wow. And I'm quite impressed with the bartenders. Often, these places, they are very hand in glove. So, I mean, there's this couple would have taken you to a place where they are, like friends with the bartenders and all that. And they'll all be hand in glove in this whole thing. But I'm glad that at least you could get out of the whole thing safely. Oh my God. Wow.
So it's
This is
pretty
quite
close
a,
too.
you were like almost there.
Yeah. This
Ooh. And this was in
was in Medellin in
Medellin. Okay.
June 2022.
Oh, wow. But Medellin is known for a lot of such kind of stories. I mean, this again, the Narcos kind of stories. This is very much that comes in that kind of category.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I just kept reading later, like in the Wall Street Journal, I think in the same year. But I think the title was like Americans went to Colombia for love instead to get killed by gangsters. And I think one way that happens is that a lot of them would get matched on Tinder, dating apps.
Oh,
And then that actually eventually led to their killing. So it's
ouch. Harsh.
so yeah, definitely got to navigate and be careful.
Yeah, don't be gullible. Stick to your own joint. That's all.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And maybe not do a lot of Tinder over there and try and meet people in the bar or maybe something like that. But I really do not know. See, when people come and talk to you, I love talking to locals, when they come and talk,
Exactly.
chat up, you can get so many stories through that. I always say that, especially when I'm in a bar, I love to sit by the bar and talk to the bartender. And, it's a great conversation. And then people around, we always yap and it's a part of the whole experience. And then here, if you have to be so careful, it's like, hmm. So
Yeah,
I
I
get
would
your
say
thing.
the Colombia for me is this country of like vast contrasts. You meet some of the most friendly people you'll ever meet in
Right.
your life, and at
Mhm.
the same time, you're sometimes exposed to the most precarious situations. It's probably
That
the most
actually happens in so
oriented
many
people.
countries. This is a story that is, I mean, you can't, you have to be that careful when you're in India. You have to be that careful when you're in Italy, France, Spain. You have so many such stories everywhere. So
That's right.
that is that. Wow, my God, that's quite a story that I've gotten out of you. Wow, oh God. And amidst all these place stories and places, you still chose to speak about Japan on this episode. Though, I mean, I love Japan. This is the country that I went to this year for my vacation. So it's actually closest in terms of timeline as well. So I love it that you chose the country. But oh my God, why Japan over all the other places that you've been to for this podcast?
Yeah, great. Yeah, actually, whenever people ask me, among the 60 or 60 plus countries you've been to, which is your favorite travel destination, and I just feel like Japan is probably not the coolest among all these 60 countries. It's not the most adventurous, but I think if I just speak my mind without, trying to create some kind of personality or image, I would still stick with Japan. It's just a country I would try to visit at least once a year.
Oh.
Yeah, my first trip to Japan was in 2009. And I think ever since then, I tried to visit the country almost every year, apart from the pandemic years. And I just feel like you always have the best combination of experiences as well as the overall utility you get out of a travel experience, like the food and the quality of accommodation, places you get to explore, is the aesthetics, which I think is very important as well. Yeah, just Japan, I think, still stands out.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is something about the place. It's difficult for me to pinpoint why. I loved it so much. I mean, there are a lot of reasons, but there was something that made it extra special, and I do not know what it is. But there was one sentence that you just said now that it probably wasn't one of the coolest or the most adventurous, again in quotes kind. So, which place would fall under the coolest or the most adventurous place that you've been to?
That could potentially be Lebanon. Like I went there last year when it was literally in a war with Israel. I went there.
You chose the adventure.
Right. So I was actively looking for adventures when there. It's because I had a friend who was working for the UN and he's based in Beirut. He literally told me, like, "Are you sure you want to come?" Because there were drone attacks every now and then.
People were told to leave and you're going in. Oh my God.
So I decided to go anyways. And I remember when I was entering the border, the immigration officer literally told me, like, asked me, "Why are you here?" And then I said, "I'm here for tourism." And he literally said, "Good luck." Because you don't really hear that from an immigration officer, like, "Good luck."
Ouch, ouch.
But I'm sure he meant well. And so I just thought it was really interesting.
Okay, so the adventurous category is Lebanon then. What about the coolest category?
Coolest category. Yeah, I'm just wondering, probably different people have different definitions for coolness. I guess Japan is actually really cool in many ways. It's just maybe not adventurous. I think a country that is really cool.
Even I'm trying to break my head as to which country that I have been to would come under the coolest category for me.
Yeah, what would be the coolest? Because I think cool has the connotation of not being mainstream as well. But if a place is too mainstream, I wouldn't say that's like super cool.
Jordan maybe for me. I mean,
Jordan.
if I think more, there'll be two more that I will add. But yeah.
Yeah, Jordan, I went there a couple of years ago, and I mean, Petra has always been a place I really wanted to visit.
Yes.
I didn't go to Wadi Rum. I actually really want to go back to visit that place.
Yes.
But Petra for me was very kind of out of this world.
Yes, Petra was out of the world, floating on the Dead Sea is out of the world. Jordan, under all categories, fall under an extremely cool vacation. And I went with two of my very close friends. We had a great time across, traveling the entire place. It's very nice.
Yeah, definitely have to find a time to go back then.
Yeah. When you rattle off names, I'll also get this whole jealousy and FOMO kind of thing. Oh, amazing. So you said Japan is a trip that you went during your gap year, right?
Right. After university, I worked for 2 years in Venezuela, and which is another interesting experience of its own. And I realized that I needed a break. I was working mostly in the wilderness, rural area.
Wow.
So I kind of missed civilization. I missed Asia. And Japan kind of has always been there for me. I've been there as a student in university, but only for a week, and I was, dying to explore the rest of the country. Right. And I was just thinking 2 weeks won't do it justice. Mm-hmm. So I applied for a student visa, like a language program in Tokyo.
Lovely.
My love affair with Japan started toward the end of my high school. Mm-hmm. When I started to read some Japanese novels by Murakami Haruki.
Yeah.
And I started to listen to Japanese artists, J-pop, basically. There's one famous at the time called Ayumi.
Okay.
She's an artist.
So surprisingly, one of my walking tours in Japan was led by a girl called Ayumi. So probably it's all the inspiration from the singer. Her parents must have been fans as well.
Very much could be, because she's actually most popular in the 90s.
Okay.
And the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Okay, so the love for J-pop, the love for books, Japanese authors and all that is what brought you to choosing Japan for your gap year.
Yeah, and also I went there as a student at university for a bioethics debate.
Okay.
So we were a group of students from different countries, and all of us were in Kyushu University for a week just to talk about euthanasia.
Wow. Euthanasia. Wow.
So literally after 1 week, we were all experts about the ethics of euthanasia and how it is done. But that's also when it was my first trip to Japan, and I had my firsthand experience with people. And I just remember coming back from that trip, I immediately bought like a dozen books about Japanese history and culture. Because it was just such a fascinating trip that kind of opened up a new world for me. Because previously it was just the manga, the animation, music.
Yes.
But then I actually wanted to dive deeper into history and culture. So that planted the seed for the gap year.
Oh. And I think it must have totally lived up to all the hype that you must have built up in your head.
Yeah, in many ways, I think it did, or even went beyond my expectations.
Yeah, you've been going back every year, man. So naturally, it's gone above and beyond. Like how when we do appraisals, we have one above and beyond category. Japan has done that for you. Yeah, so the history of Japan also is very interesting. So a lot of my walking tours, they first would talk a good hour and a half into Japanese history. I, on the other hand, went on quite a blank slate when I went there. So I know a little bit here and there, but the amount of things that I learned about the country, about different, they're very culturally rich as well. And a lot of their culture comes from their history and the period of isolation, the samurai, shogun, all of those things. I just enjoyed listening to all this. The one thing that I had in my head is I had watched the Shogun series before going there. Mm-hmm. And Shogun series is supposed to be all fantasy, right? It's a fiction thing. But the fiction is so connected to the reality. So a lot of the stories, in fact, a lot of the walking tour, those folks told us, have you watched the series? The many who hadn't in the tour, so they told us, please go back and watch it because it's based very well on the reality. Of course, a lot of it's heavily fictionized, but please watch it. You'll get a lot of what happened those days in the 1700s, 1800s, all of that in Japan. Okay, so we are doing touchdown Japan, right, Boyang, now?
Yeah.
Tell me all about it. So you've chosen Japan. I remember when we were talking about the country, you even quote unquote mentioned that you have a love affair with Japan.
Yeah. So I just remember at the time I definitely wanted to spend more than just 2 weeks, traveling as a tourist. I decided to go all in for half a year to a year. I actually didn't know how much time exactly I wanted to spend there. Also because at the time I was applying for graduate school. Okay. So that was also pretty much immediately after my trip to India. I got the visa, flew to Japan. moved into a student dorm in the suburb of Tokyo. And also, I think it was one thing that made my experience a bit more different is that I chose to study Japanese in a university, not in language school, because I was in Waseda University. It's actually the university attended by Haruki Murakami. It's his alma mater. So everything he described in his novels kind of just came to life. So I remember in one of his novels, An Origin Wood, so the author was saying like the guy would be taken on a walk after class and to the streets of Shinjuku, and he described all the nightlife there, the atmosphere, the noises. So it just literally came to life.
That feels so good, right?
Yeah, literally, it's like a dream come true. I met this Chinese guy who also studied in the US. I remember him telling me he didn't really feel that inspired by New York, San Francisco, but when he moved to Tokyo, that is when he realized this is the city. And so I think growing up, I always had a huge fascination with the US, watching Friends and other movies.
Of course, all sitcoms, all movies are all based from somewhere there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Tokyo actually just came to be like the best alternative, if not better, than US cities. So I would always just bike around the city, and it's just very easy to navigate. And it's just such a huge city. And I spent a year exploring the city, and there are always places that I haven't seen. There was corners of the cities that will have some hidden secrets or history. And it's so sophisticated and there's so much culture history that you never run out of things to do there. And I think that's something that was really fascinating.
Yeah, that's one thing that when I came back, I said, so Tokyo is really busy. It's a very busy city. Everyone's in a hurry. Everyone's rushing. It's all a hustle and chaos and everything. But there is such a method to the chaos. It's so organized, and it gives me great joy to see that it's so organized. And I mean, you go to a bunch of places in India, Bangalore, Mumbai, all of these places are also extremely busy, extremely busy. But there is a very big difference somehow between, if you walk around the streets of, say, Mumbai, or if you walk around the streets of Tokyo, there is the chaos and there is a beautiful method to the chaos. And I loved Tokyo for that. And of course, like you said, you walk. So when I was there, I made it a point to stay in 3 different areas in Tokyo. And I did that because I thought that, when you're staying there, you'll get to know that area a little more. You can walk around the alleys little, when you're at an off hour, or when you come back at night from your dinner, you can just walk around there and see. So I tried to stay in 3 different places. Of course, for me, because it was my first trip, it was all the touristiest kind of areas. So, those still have these small shrines in the middle of somewhere. And it's beautiful to see it. And even there, restaurants. So most restaurants, at least, from a lot of tourist places that we go to, say in India, Europe, rest of Asia, US and all that, you can sit there and you can lazy for a long time. You can sit and have an hour-long dinner, 2-hour-long dinner. But that's not the case with most restaurants in across Japan. It's always you reach, you order, your order will come within the next 5 minutes, you eat and you're out. So you rarely have a long conversation. Of course, you do have restaurants where you can have long conversations, not that way, but I would say a majority of one. So it's a very different culture, that even I noticed when I was there. So maybe like this, these small things add up to the reason why even I'm fascinated by the country. But so you've gone there as a student. So I went there as a tourist. So you've actually lived there as a student. How was your life there as a student? How was it for you when you were there? Tell us more.
Yeah, well, I think before I moved to Japan, I had encountered some Japanese friends either through debating during my travels. And I think one thing I realized is that I really appreciate how polite Japanese people are when they meet you, and the kind of kindness they extend to strangers. I met a lot of Japanese people before going to Japan, and I was able to reconnect with them. And it was also really good to meet a bunch of people, my classmates, who are also interested in Japan, who went there to study. Many of them actually are still there. So in recent
Nice.
years, when I went back to Tokyo, I can still meet up with some of them.
Yeah.
And at the time, Japan was still expensive at the time. I think it's less so in recent years because of the exchange rate.
That's
So back
right.
then
Yeah.
it was more on the expensive side still,
Mhm.
especially if you're a student. But I feel like there are ways to get around those things as a student, as a resident. For example, if you go to student cafeterias, they're always not really pricey, and you kind of know what places have the best deals.
Yeah.
And it's always the mom and pop shops around the university where they have fantastic like bentos or lunch. And then I also enjoyed traveling around Japan
Mhm.
during the summer holidays. And I think one of the most fascinating trips I took was got a bike and I just bought a tent as well as like mattresses on Amazon. Also, I was trying to save as a student, as I actually put them all at the back and the front of my bicycle and did a road trip to Izu Peninsula. And my bike is not well equipped. It's not a professional mountain bike or anything. It's just what Japanese people call mamachari. It's just ordinary bike used for commuting.
Mm-hmm.
But I did that nonetheless during a week-long holiday in Japan called the Golden Week.
Wow.
Yeah, and so initially I started with a friend from school, and he kind of took me from Tokyo all the way to the suburb. We just spent like one night there, and then he decided to back to Tokyo, and so I decided to go on my own and to explore further. I didn't know where I would get to. I didn't plan. So sometimes I would just sleep on the bridge, and sometimes I would just sleep in a park or sleep in the port. And I remember this one time when I just slept in a shrine, so next to the temple. That's where I put my tent.
Oh, perfect. You're making it sound more and more perfect, okay? On a bridge, on a shrine, on the port. I don't know how it must have actually felt while doing it, but it sounds really nice.
Yeah, I think one thing is, when you're 26, you kind of just didn't care too much
That's
about
true.
the
Way
level
more
of comfort.
adjusting. Yes, way more. I agree.
Like I don't know if I can do that anymore. Like
I know.
But
yeah.
yeah, like comfort is just not the priority when you're 25, 26.
Correct. Yeah.
And yeah, literally I was just writing every day, like nonstop, and the scenery was absolutely beautiful along the coast. And also this history that's Izu is where the black ship of Perry first came to Japan in the 1800s. So you can kind of pass that area.
Is there like a museum over there?
There's a museum and kind of like a replica of the ship.
Oh, nice. Oh, that story is also a fascinating story, right? 200 years of absolute isolation. And so I was one of our walking tours at the guides, he told us that there was only one country that was allowed to trade very freely. Of course, there were small trades happening with China and Korea and all of that, but there was one main country that was allowed. Can you guess which one it was? I mean, we did not know, but he said it was Dutch. So why is that? He said it's as simple. Dutch care only about money. So primarily the reason why they closed the country for the 200 odd years was because of religious reasons, conversion and all of that. That was the prime reason that they say, but there are other reasons and all that as well. And they said there is no way that Dutch will even worry or think about all of that. All they want is money. So they'll come, trade, whatever, and go back. And these 200 years of when the country was whatever closed or isolated kinds was the reason why women wear those elaborate kimonos with those very funky hairstyles and all that. A lot of that happened during this 200 years of isolation, because when other countries were looking at Western countries and US and Europe and all to see their fashion sense happening there, these guys were not aware of a lot of those things. So that's why the fashion sense, at that time was so different in Japan versus other countries. I mean, I found it very interesting to, these aspects would not cross my mind unless someone tells me, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. That's probably why this happened. And a lot of stories around the samurai and shogun and all of that came for all of this. There is more. So when you were in this place, What more did you see? This Izu Peninsula, the route is supposed to be very pretty, like you have waterfalls, and of course you're going along the coast, so the rugged coastline and all of that. Tell us more. How was it?
Yeah. So during that trip, I think one of the fascinating things I experienced was I remember one night I was just sleeping in my tent in a park, and the park actually has onsen or hot spring.
Woo!
That's public and available for everybody, so you can just dip your feet there, and it's amazing. And you don't often get that like in other places. And the place is completely safe, and even if you're in the middle of nowhere, where they don't even have a convenience store, they're vending machines.
Oh,
so
these are things that we have to talk about. Japan's vending machines, Japan's toilets, and their convenience stores. Now, these all have to be spoken at length about.
Yeah, I mean, I also think one thing that's fascinating about Japan is companies, whether it's domestic or foreign, they have to go aggressively at diversifying their product portfolio. Or for example, Kit Kat normally is just a chocolate, bar elsewhere, but in Japan they have like 50 flavors, and they have flavors that are limited to certain prefectures or cities, and they're just flavors that are very unique. Like they have soy sauce flavor, they have wasabi flavor, sake flavor. And I think the length to which companies have to go in order to survive in that competitive consumer market for consumer goods is just makes it really interesting. And you don't see that in most other
That's
places.
True, very true. My God, those 50 flavors of Kit Kat even took me by. I was like, oh my God. Yeah.
And I also feel that the quality of products of food in a Japanese convenience store is just way higher than most other stores. And I feel like if we can just bring one convenience store from Japan to Switzerland or somewhere, our quality of life would be so much better.
Oh my God. And you know what they say that, even like you talk about brands and all of that. So you have packaging, for example, if it's a biscuit packet, you'll have the picture of the biscuit outside, right? Very often the picture of the biscuit is much larger than the actual biscuit in other countries. Whereas in Japan, it's not allowed. The size of the biscuit inside has to be the same size as on the packet. And this is across every single item that's there in Japan. So if it's a wafer, if it's a potato chip, if it's a biscuit, whatever you're picking up, whatever is a picture that's there on the packet is the same size as what's there inside. How crazy, right?
That's good. That's interesting.
That's the level of quality that they are looking at. So just imagine.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I guess there's a strong focus on protecting consumers and not to fool them.
Yeah. So back to the cycling trip story that you were saying. You mentioned wasabi Kit Kats then. The route that you took has wasabi farms, is what I've heard, right? The whole Izu Peninsula and all of that. Did you have some legendary wasabi stuff?
Yeah, there are places in Japan, I think they're really focused on making sure this product is well marketed and it's known across the country. So this is one, I think, little county in Shizuoka that's famous for wasabi. So you have different products attached to that. And I remember during the road trip, there are places that's famous for mandarins.
Oh.
It's very fascinating to have that, I think. And it really just gives you more reasons to go to places. One thing that's extra special.
That's true. Do you have any dietary restrictions like vegetarian, vegan, anything around that?
I actually don't have any of these restrictions.
Good.
So for me, that's
good. Stay that way. So I am a vegetarian. And during this trip, I kicked myself. There were so many times that I was like, I wish I could have even this, and things like that. So I'm like on the borderline, anytime converting kind of borderline. And whenever I actually make the switches, I'll definitely go back to Japan to have more of the the array of food, like those bento boxes, they look so lovely, and I'm like, oh man, I can't have it because vegetarian is not fair. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think whenever you buy things in Japan, this is a very strong packaging culture that everything is almost over packaged, and they make sure. And there's such a strong focus on aesthetics that I always think Japanese people a lot of times prioritize aesthetics over functionality. And so to get to the product, you have to tear all these layers of packages It's just such a waste of time. Sorry, it's a, waste of resources and
there are no garbage cans, so where do you throw this away?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the biggest culture shocks for I think a lot of tourists is that how can they manage cities without any garbage cans? But I think that's the Japanese ways to deal with it. It's kind of privatized, right? So everybody have to deal with their own garbage.
Again, one of those fascinating things for me, the fact that there were no garbage cans, but there is no garbage on the road. It was like, how are people so disciplined? Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
So tell us more about your the bike trip that you were doing. You met any interesting people on the way, things like that?
One thing I actually think is that when you're living in Tokyo, it's full of people and everybody's so busy. It's actually very hard for you to talk to anyone. Even though I was learning Japanese at the time, it's hard to practice.
Mm-hmm.
But during my road trip in very small cities, I actually met Japanese people, and they're willing to talk to you because the pace is much slower, and they would be curious. Oh, this dude is biking with all his like tent and everything, and they actually asked me about your trip and where you're going.
Nice. So you could even get your Japanese language practice too.
Yeah. And one last thing I remember during the trip is that this is more of the adventurous part.
Mm-hmm.
So I rode around Izu Peninsula, and on the way back to Tokyo, I was going downhill, and it's where you can see the Fuji Mountain.
Oh.
But because going there is like uphill, but going back is downhill, and the brakes of my bikes were so worn out at the time that they were not functioning, and I was going downhill all the way. And I think maybe an hour of the trip, I had to brake or slow down my bike with my shoes because my brakes was just not working at the time. So that made it a bit dangerous. So I think that's something folks have to be aware of if they go on a road trip, bike trip. And one other thing is that at the time I actually didn't have a SIM card in Japan because Japanese SIM cards are quite expensive. You get like a subscription. Obviously now they're SIM card for tourists.
That's right. Yeah.
But at the time I didn't have one. So I told my mother before my trip that I was going away for 4 days. And then the trip was so good. I was so indulged in the beauty of the scenery. I decided to extend my trip by a day and a half. And so by the end of the 4th day, my mother was like going crazy because she wasn't hearing anything from me. And so it's funny because when I back in Tokyo, I immediately messaged her, but she was obviously very worried as she told her friends in Japan and China. They were literally half a day away from reporting to the police that I was missing.
Tickets to Tokyo were already booked.
Yeah, it was. So when I went back to school next week, like I'm kind of infamous already because apparently in all these chat groups, people were asking, "You've seen Boyang?"
So you're popular, either being popular famous wise or probably maybe infamous.
Yeah, people would meet me, hear my name, and say, "Oh, you're that guy." So never risk that with our mothers. If it's 4 days, it has to be 4 days.
This is a usual trait for Indian mothers that they will have. I'm glad to know that even Chinese mothers as well have, they need to know where their kids are all the time.
Definitely, yes.
This clip, take it and send it to mommy, okay? My God, but this is not the time when there was Wi-Fi. Which year was this when you were traveling and doing this whole thing?
That was 2014.
2014, okay. So not every place had Wi-Fi at that time. So now even the smallest B&B or, any cafe would have Wi-Fi where you can log in and just say, Mom, I'm cool.
Yeah, and definitely there's no Wi-Fi in my tent. Because I was traveling on the cheap. And
yeah, tent is so cool. So, so when you're going from place to place and all that, where do you actually refresh yourself? Where do you have a shower? Do you have such kind of facilities as you're doing this kind of bike trip?
So there are public facilities, like some toilets, public bathrooms would have.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, that's something I guess not available everywhere, but in Japan it's possible.
Oh, you have campsites and all of that as well?
Yeah, so there are designated campsites where you can go where they have showering facilities.
Right.
And the other thing is in Japan there are hot spring or
Oh, yes, of
like
course, you're
public bath
there. When
everywhere.
there is an onsen, why bother about all this shower and all that? Oh, I completely forgot about that. Oh, how was the onsen for you? How was the experience? What is it? This Izu Peninsula what has one legendary onsen town where it's all a natural onsen and all of it?
Yeah, I think that would be Atami. That's
Okay.
the most famous onsen town in Izu. But all around the peninsula, there are many onsens.
Oh,
And
and these
so
public onsens, do they look like how it looks in the Shogun series and all that? Like literally, you're in the middle of nature, kites.
I've been to some of those. They're not necessarily during this trip,
Mm-hmm.
but I remember when I went to Nagano, there's a place with open air onsens, and there's also an onsen where there are a lot of snow monkeys.
Oh yeah, that's the
Um,
most famous picture. The
yeah,
picture that's circled all
that's
around the one.
right.
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually went there and found that it's real. That's pretty
It's
amazing.
so crazy to see. Oh my God, they'll be just sitting and chilling, like vegetating, and there'll be like the smoke from the water will be coming on them. Oh, so cute.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Onsen's, yeah, it's one of the most unique and special experiences you can get in Japan for sure. So I think that everyone should give it a try. Although there are rumors or probably confirmed stories that people with any tattoos should not go into onsen
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they get kicked out.
yeah. I have a tattoo.
Oh,
So then we had planned a weekend away to an onsen town, which is about say 3 hours from Tokyo, and we were staying there overnight. Most gorgeous onsen I have seen in like I went through a lot of online reviews, which one to go to and all. We picked up this particular one. The onsen is called the Takaragawa Onsen. I'll put up the link in our show notes. It's most beautiful. So this was in the month of April, and there was still snow all around, and you are in the onsen. It's supposed to be one of the largest onsens in Japan. So you're in the onsen and you have snow all around you. Oh my God,
wow.
it's unbelievably beautiful. And there's a gushing waterfall right there behind you. So they have like made three different. One is 40 degrees, one is 32 degrees
Right.
kinds, but it's all natural, is what they claim. Very pretty place, very simple, very nice, and we spent an entire day there. So when I was looking at which ones to go, there's this again this a walking tour guide told us a statement that once you go into an onsen, your life is changed. So I was very excited as to what life-changing experience I'm going to get. Okay, life did not change, but that day was one of the most memorable days in my life. That day has gone into the category of one of the most memorable days of my life. Like you have that movie, right, Inside Out, where each time you make a core memory, you'll have one core memory. It'll go to that one core memory zone. So definitely the onsen went into that core memory zone. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I definitely have to check out this place you mentioned. It seems really amazing.
Oh yes, I'll definitely send you the link. And you could also stay in this onsen. Unfortunately, we booked very last minute, so we didn't get to stay at this onsen. So how it works is that day trippers can only stay in this onsen till say I think 4 p.m. or something. So the ones who stay there, they get exclusive access of the entire place once the day trippers leave.
Okay.
And the onsen is open 24 hours, so there are gorgeous pictures of enjoy being in the onsen under starlit sky, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, you can't take pictures there, photography is not allowed, and they keep your phones away and things like that. But the photos that management shares, they are gorgeous. I really want to do go to the same place at some point and stay over here and just think of sitting in that warm water and starlit sky above, and what if there is snow around, like how it was when we went, and absolutely like perfect. Oh,
Sure.
so, you tell one sentence of your experience, and my stories are going from into paragraphs and paragraphs. I love this exchange of stories, man. It's so fun.
Yeah.
What else? So this whole bike trip. So you came back. You said, "Mom, I'm fine." Your mom settled down, or did you get one barrage of scoldings from mommy?
Yeah, this scolding is definitely unavoidable. I just think moms will never get used to it no matter how long you have been traveling. Like on your own.
60 countries is quite a big number. I thought she should now think that, okay, fine, Boyang is not going to tell me every single time. They don't give up. Yeah. Cute. What else? So how else was your other vacations that you took when you were in Japan? Not just may not just be from this particular trip, from other trips that you've been there. Tell us.
There was a trip I took also during the same year. This is not a bike trip, but a road trip in trains. But also I brought my tent for camping. And so first I went to Nikko with my friends from school. It was a really nice trip. It's like a boys trip. It was really fun. Nikko is about 3 hours from Tokyo. I spent 2-3 days there in traditional hostel there. And the next day I just left them and started my trip to Hokkaido.
Oh.
And I had to cross the entire Tohoku regions, the northeastern part of Japan. And also I passed where they had the nuclear incident with the tsunami. And so a lot of people tend to avoid that region, and that region is no longer on the map for many tourists, especially back then, because it was only a few years after the incident happened. So in Japan, there's actually this basically just really bad marketing for the place. So any products that's coming out of that priced a lot lower because of the concerns over radiation. But regardless, so I went there and spent a night village there. I think it's called Shirakawa. And I got there really late into the night, so I didn't book any hotels. I just put out my tents kind of like in a field or on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And next day I woke up to this Japanese farmer who knocked on my tent and had a conversation. I thought I was going to just get scolded and who are you? And he's actually really kind of friendly. He asked me about where you're going, how's your trip? And he shared with me his story. Did a similar thing to Hokkaido when he was much younger. And he gave me green tea and bread for breakfast. So it's really
sweet.
Yeah,
wow.
He was a really nice person. Something I didn't expect.
Oh, I love such kind of encounters that you have. Suddenly you meet someone really special. And it's been how many years? I mean, more than 10 years and you still remember this conversation that you had and the bread and the green tea and all of it. Imagine.
Yeah, I guess those are just the small things you just never forget.
Yes,
kindness from strangers and conversations you get to have.
And the green tea. Yeah, I definitely think, these make the trips way more special than, I saw a rugged peninsula and all that. That you see rugged peninsulas everywhere and things. These conversations you'll never forget. I love it. It makes it so nice. Lovely. But did he tell you any story about the whole nuclear event that happened and all of it?
I guess we didn't go to that, go into that in details, or my Japanese is not good enough to describe a nuclear incident.
That's true, yeah.
So the town that it happened is called Fukushima.
Mm-hmm. Fukushima, okay.
And so this town is probably around 2 hours away from the town that had the nuclear event. And so I continued my trip after that. And one other interesting thing that happened during the trip is that so there are 2 cities in Hokkaido, apart from the biggest city, Sapporo. So the 2 is Hakodate and Otaru. And these 2 cities are quite similar in many ways. They're both kind of like satellite cities to Sapporo, and they're both ports, and they're famous for warehouses converted into stores, because they were also one of the 2 of the ports that were opened up after Japan's opening up policy.
Sapporo's on the coast, is it? You're saying it's a naval port?
So Sapporo is in the kind of like in the center of Hokkaido. And then these 2, Hakodate and Otaru, they're port cities, not too far away from Sapporo. So what's interesting is that when I got to Hakodate, I mixed the city with the other city. So I thought I booked a hostel in Hakodate, but when I got there, I realized I actually booked it in Otaru instead. So I was there without an accommodation. And so I had to find somewhere to stay. Fortunately, I had my tent, so I just set up my tent next to the port. And I just remember next day when I woke up, there's a volcano that's kind of started to erupt
Yeah, it happens every alternate day in Japan. It's almost like that.
Hmm. So I woke up and realized it was like I don't know, it was like the end of the world, or what do you call it? It's
You
just
called end of the world only. My God, you had ashes all around and things like that, is it?
yeah. So I actually also took a picture. I'll send it to you later. So it's my
Must.
tent, the porch, and the background with the volcano erupting.
Wow. And it's
Um,
actually lava, or is it just the ashes so far?
Not so there's no lava.
Okay, okay. My God.
Yeah, but I thought it was like fascinating, like waking up to the end of the world.
Absolutely. I had a very similar experience in Indonesia. So we were vacationing in Bali, and for the weekend, I think we went to this place called Gili Travangan, which is very nice island place for diving and all of it. And just as we were leaving Bali, the Mount Agung was had just started erupting.
Wow.
So all our luggage was entirely covered in ashes. It was really crazy. And there is
Wow.
a beautiful picture that I have. You know, you have those water swings across many places in Bali, right? It's just on the beach, but inside the water, you'll have a swing. So I'm sitting on one of those swings, and I have, and then in the background, I have the Mount Agungs. It was still not
Mm.
lava coming out, it was still a lot of ashes and smoke and all of it. But you can actually see, like, it's like smoke coming out and all of that. It was a beautiful picture, but then that one, because of that one thing, all our plans went haywire. We had to change our flights.
Wow.
But I got a good picture. It was a beautiful thing to see the volcano actually erupting.
Hmm. Yeah, I haven't seen an erupting volcano with lava.
Bucket
So.
list. So, what did you have to abruptly end your trip when you did the Hokkaido thing and you had the volcano erupting, or did you continue your? Uh,
Yeah, I continued. It seems to be a really small eruption, which I guess just happens from time to time. And so I
Japanese is a
continued with
chill
the road
about also
trip.
another one. Blah.
Yeah,
I
with
know.
I think with earthquakes as well, because this
Yeah,
happens every now and then.
I know. It's
Um,
crazy. Hokkaido is actually a skiing destination, right? One of those skiing
it
destinations.
is. So Hokkaido is really nice to visit in both summer and winter.
Mm-hmm.
The winter turns into a huge ski
Which
destination.
season was it when you went?
I went in summer.
Okay.
So in summer, people usually are there to see the lavender.
Oh, lavender fields. Wow.
It's a beautiful place, and there are actually a lot more to see there.
Nice. And how did you do this traveling between places in this trip?
So there was a train trip, and in Japan, so Japan Rail offers what's called the session Junhachi Kibun. It means youth 18
Mm-hmm.
ticket. So originally, it's something that's for students to return home after semester, and they sell it at a really cheap price.
Nice.
And it's valid for 5 days. It doesn't have to be consecutive. As long as it's within 5 days, you can ride on trains, unlimited train rides within Japan. But
Wow.
the thing is, you can only take the slowest trains. You can't take Shinkansen,
Okay.
high-speed trains. So it has to be the slowest, not even the express trains, but it's unlimited. And they only sell it at the end of the fall semester and the end of the spring semester. But actually, anybody can just go.
I was going to ask, do you need a student ID to get the ticket?
You don't need it.
Don't need
Anyone can get it. So you can stay young forever.
Moral of the story was nice. You can stay young forever.
I love it. I was like 26, already worked for a couple of years, but I was using that.
Yeah, yeah. When I go to a bar and they ask me for my ID, I'm very happy. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. Please see my ID. I'm beyond 18. Thank you. It's like
I
that.
definitely think youth has been extended for many people in our generation, because there used to be this thing called youth hostel,
Mm-hmm.
but now they just got rid of youth. It's just
Yeah.
hostel these days. Because sometimes one might still stay in a hostel. Your youth has been extended.
I like it. Very nice. How are the slow trains in Japan? I've done Shinkansen, I've done express trains, but I didn't do slow train. And a Shinkansen or an express train, I mean, they're phenomenally good, but it's like one of those, European trains or Indian trains. It's an AC one. You have comfortable seats and things like that. How are these slow trains in Japan?
There's little trains. There are still many different types, but it just feels like it takes forever to get to places. But also, I think it's interesting because whenever tourists travel around, they tend to jump on the high-speed train and just get to major places like
Correct.
Tokyo, Kyoto. And these trains actually don't stop in smaller cities or
Yeah.
towns. So it is only when you take the slow trains can you go to rural Japan and visit the smaller cities where the pace of life is just completely different.
Yeah.
And also, it actually affects how tourist revenue is distributed because the foreign tourists, most of the money still go to bigger cities and major tourist destinations.
Correct. I definitely like it. I mean, I'm very fond of train travel on the whole. On this vacation, express trains and Shinkansen are the only ones that I use. Of course, subways and all that are different within the city. Buses and all that is different. But across, like intercity travel was only through Shinkansens or express trains. Maybe next time I'll want to feel young again, so I'll take the slow train. And generally, I mean, here in India, you have these trains where you have something called toy trains, which are this really old, like UNESCO heritage kind of trains. Yeah, they're really nice, and there are across just three places in India. So there's one close to Shimla, there is one close to Chennai, and there is one close to Calcutta, the West Bengal. And they are just so good, and they'll go through really like forested regions, or in case of Shimla it goes around the Himalayas, and it tests your patience like no tomorrow because it crawls. It really crawls. But it stops in a dozen places, small stations. So I would always say just take it between station 1 and station 3, or station 7 and station 9, and don't take the whole route because you'll just go crazy as to what is its speed. But it's really nice to go on that route. It'll keep, like, once in a while it'll hit the horn, so pam pam, and then you'll hear it, and it's so nice.
Sounds amazing.
Yes. Your next trip to India, I'll plan out such kind of experiences for you. So whenever you're coming next, let me know.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm a big fan of train travel as well. In Japan, they actually, like, people are just always fascinated about train travel, and there are many different types of trains. They always make it super interesting, whether it's Hello Kitty.
I was just going to say Hello Kitties as there as well.
Nostalgic trains, old trains, hot spring trains. Yeah, it just constantly amazes me. Yeah.
So we were in Kyoto, and this was just towards the end of your Sakura season. And there is a Love Express. Okay. So there was this, there were two folks in my walking tour who had taken that Love Express in the morning. And they said that so the Love Express train apparently goes through a route which has, sakuras like all over the train kinds. It's supposed to be really beautiful, but because it was towards the end of Sakura, there were no flowers anymore, or barely any. They said it was so boring that on the way back we took a regular train and came back. We didn't want to go on that Love Express slow train. It was so boring. But they do have a lot of such themes, like you're saying, like Hello Kitty and bunch of other things that I've seen so many, even in that route towards Hakone and all of that. There are a bunch of these very, very, very pretty themed train travels and all of that. Lovely. Tell me more about Japan. What about food? Like what blew your mind when you were there? Things that you tried, which has almost become a part of your regular cuisine or regular palate kinds.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the whole world is kind of fascinated with Japanese food at the moment. With the matcha and yakitori. Like, even in Europe, sometimes you go to restaurants and they Japanese.
Yeah, Japanese food is in right now everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like Japanese food in Japan is just a different level, and definitely much better. And also, one thing I feel like, when I was living in Singapore, there are Japanese restaurants everywhere. But even if it's just a Japanese chain made by Japanese chefs sometimes, or other trained local chefs, it's just not the same as your dining experience in Japan.
Yeah.
My understanding is that whenever in Japan, when you're eating the food, it's not just about the food. It's a whole package. It's about the atmosphere. It's about the service. It's about the nashi, or it's the whole thing. You can't simply, move that food, that bowl of noodle of ramen, to somewhere else and recreate the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the food is just like a small part of the experience. whenever I'm not in Japan, I would rather hold back this food until I get a ticket, fly to Japan. And I'll just like eat everything in a week or two.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of many types of Japanese food. Sushi is definitely, and I think whenever you go to smaller cities in Japan that
Mhm.
are on the coast, they usually have fishing market, and that's where you get the best deal. Since I recently went to Japan, well, just prior to your trip, I went to a small city. It's called Shimonoseki, next to Fukuoka,
Okay.
and the fishing market is really really good, and so I think that's one of the best places to do that.
So do you get food if you're going to fishing market? Do they make you a dish and give it to you?
Yeah, so early morning they would sell seafood,
Mhm.
like fish and whatever, to restaurants, to dealers. But if you go as a tourist, because there are many like restaurants or shops that offer you sushi,
Oh,
so that's like lovers of seafood or sushi.
as fresh as the word fresh can be.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really interesting. I thought because usually vegetable markets and fruit markets and fish markets and all that, you won't get a dish that you can eat. I mean, you can buy fish and you can go home and cook it and things like that, or you can buy vegetables and go home and cook it. Of course, fruits you can buy and just eat it, but otherwise, it's interesting that there you can actually,
That's
they'll
right.
have a sauce or there's something where you can just go there as fresh, just eat it. Wow, oh, very cool. Wow. Tell me, so has there been any practice that you had that you've observed in Japan that has now become a part of you, part of your life, part of how you lead
Hmm.
daily life?
That's an interesting question. I do feel like there are certain things you get used to in Japan, but that's not available outside. For instance, Japan is just very friendly for solo travelers in a way that nowhere else is even comparable. There are many places you can go to as a solo traveler, and the place is actually just set up for you to have your own barbecue. So there's something called like one person barbecue in Japan. So
Really?
yes, and that's just an option. You have your own room sometimes, and it's just you and your meat, and and nobody else.
Wow.
And there's some ramen restaurants in Japan, like Ichiran. Is when you go there, you don't even see anyone. You just go there, pay for it, and you sit there, and they will open a small window, and a bowl of ramen is
Appears in front of
given
you.
to you. Yeah, you don't see
Yeah.
anyone. You don't see. You don't have to talk to anybody. Just you and your food.
Yeah.
In Korea, there's this food I really like. I think it's called chuncheon chicken. One
Mhm.
of my favorite dishes there. But every time I go there, they're like, you have to have at least two people to eat here. So I'm turned away every time that I can't go to Korea on my own anymore.
So the quantity is that much, is it?
Yeah, and they're just not willing to tailor it for one person.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I should just go and tell them, can I have a two people portion? And I think I still get turned down.
Oh no. Even many of the karaoke places in Japan are like your own room karaoke kinds, right? Japan has
Yeah.
that kind of culture of karaoke rooms. I've never seen it in any other
Yes.
country. Otherwise, it's a part of an entire bar and you'll have like a place where you can go karaoke, sing and all that. Whereas Japan, you have your own room.
Yeah, and I remember there are cafes in Tokyo that only allow people to sit alone. So if you're with a group of friends or with another person, you cannot enter the cafe because you're not supposed to talk at all. And even if you ask them, can we just go in without talking? They won't allow it. So it's just like cafes for one persons. So it's definitely a society that's built for individuals who want to be on their own, just enjoy their personal space. It's definitely unique in that way.
Yeah, so unique.
Yeah.
I mean, I also would say that, when you're on a train in Japan, one of the subway, metro equivalent things, the amount that people are on their phones is crazy. I mean, everyone's obsessed with their phones these days across the
Mhm.
world, but not like the Japanese. I think they take it to another level, and that's probably because of they you can't talk on the train, and which
Yeah.
is so difficult for me. I mean, I love talking, so I'm like I have to like really hold myself. Like, no, you don't. But yeah, they're
Yeah.
obsessed with their phones. So
Yeah, I think Japan is a very high pressure society, especially in big urban areas. And it's just such high pressure for individuals to conform to the
mhm.
overall culture of maintaining space, staying quiet, don't, bring troubles to others. Yeah, that kind of mindset is very deeply rooted. Once you're there, you're kind of used to it.
That's
And
true.
even foreigners, after living there for a while, you start to like nod or bow to people unconsciously.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that they all smile at you, they bow, you respect them back.
Yeah. I also noticed that, foreign travelers tend to enjoy traveling Japan, and students normally tend to enjoy living in Japan as a student. But I think there's also a huge contrast between their impression of Japan and people who decided to work in
Mhm.
Japan. I think most of my friends who are working in Japan, they tend to think that working in Japan is not easy to navigate,
Mhm.
and Japanese clients and colleagues or managers are very difficult to deal with. So I once considered the possibility of building a life there, working there. For some reason, I didn't do that. But now I feel like maybe I just want to go back as a dumb tourist. And that's probably the best way to manage my relationship with Japan.
That's it's an observation that even I've heard about or I've read about and all of that. Also, the fact that corporate life there, majority of them retire in the next 7 years or 5 years. There was some study that came out.
Yes.
Okay, a small segue from this topic, but still very much related to the plan that you said about living in Japan at some point. Boya, I have a very interesting, work suggestion for you. So when I was there, this specific onsen place that I went to, I stayed in a B&B there, very small, very nice. It's a they're a coffee roastery. I don't recall the name, but I'll put in the show notes because it's really nice. So this is run by an Australian man and his Japanese wife. So he, if I'm not mistaken, used to live in Sydney, has a corporate career. He still, works in the corporate, but then he fell in love with Japan when he visited on work and just thought he would stay back and make his life there. He learned Japanese and then slowly, one after another, bought a house, converted that into a B&B, bought a second place, converted that into a coffee roastery. It's very beautiful. So why I'm telling you all this is, if you think of moving and settling down in Japan, this is also something that you can think of instead of, entering a corporate life or corporate kind of career. You can
Mm,
also, you love meeting people and talking to people, right? What better than,
right.
having a B&B where people can come and stay and talk to you? It'll be so fun. This was almost like a ryokan, so very small
Right.
place, like maybe five
Right.
rooms, one large place where you can eat together. And they had board games there, and it was really
Wow.
nice fun. They had music playing, and he was very fluent in English, so we could have a lot of lovely conversations with him. Otherwise, there's a slight trouble to have long conversations with the locals because they are not very well versed with the language. So this was really nice, and that language, this language, other languages and all that. You should think of doing something like this, Boyang.
Yeah, so sometimes I think about, like, because I've been moving around places, and eventually probably have to settle down somewhere. And
Yeah.
where should that be? Japan is still like up there, so let's see. That's a good idea. I'll
Right?
definitely look
Mm.
into it. The
Yes, I'll
possibility.
get special preference. I'm telling you before itself.
Definitely, you get platinum membership,
Oh my God.
late checkout, per other perks.
Oh God, this 10:30 a.m. checkout and 12 and 2 p.m. check-in drives me mad. I
Totally,
I
yeah,
platinum members get 24-hour check-in, check-out. Boy, oh my God.
for sure.
Oh man. Tell me, so which other places in Japan did you visit during an entire you were there for a year, you said, right? So we've gone to a bunch of
Yeah.
other places. Any other amazing highlights that you had?
Yeah, because I also keep going back to Japan.
Mm-mm.
So if I look at the Japanese map, I've covered the vast majority of the prefectures. Um, and I think there are a few places that stand out. I
Mm-hmm.
think Nagano in winter is exceptionally pretty with the mountains, the temples, and the snow-covered mountains. I think
Where
that's
is
always a
this?
place. Nagano is kind of between Tokyo and northern coast.
Okay.
So it's also where the snow monkeys are.
Oh,
At.
okay.
There
That's
are good
easy. You should just
reasons
set
to
that.
be
That's a
there.
landmark.
Yeah. So that entire region has a few places that are really awesome. I also feel that there are some hidden gems in Japan and underrated cities. I think it's definitely whenever you go to a small place in Japan, the experience tend to be different, but also you want to avoid the crowds and discover some hidden gems. I recently went to a city in northern Japan. I think it's a place I'll never visit, but because I have a friend who's working there, so she's from China. I've known her for years now, and she traveled around the world and ended up staying in this place. It's called Iwate.
Iwate, okay.
She literally became a civil servant in a small town in Japan with 8,000 people, and the population is decreasing every year. So it really shows you the contrast because like Tokyo is always vibrant, young people moving there. It's always concern. So she's really there to kind of revive the economy with a focus on tourism. So Iwate, one of the biggest assets they have is this place called Ryusendo Cave. It's a cave with really dramatic formations, and the coastline is also incredibly beautiful. It's about an hour drive from the town. So there's something called the Bear Nose Cliff. So the cliff kind of looks like a bear's nose.
How cute!
And I went there in autumn, and it was just like falling leaves during the entire journey. It was just really amazing. And then when you get to the coast,
you have the fall colors over there.
Yes, like yellow leaves, and I think it's. I also have another friend who just got really sick and tired of her corporate life in Tokyo and moved back to her hometown, which is next to this place, also in northeastern part of Japan. It's in Akita.
Akita, okay.
And she inherited her grandmother's old house, turned it into a hostel. So I think that's really a kind of place a lot of tourists can consider their second, third trip in Japan. Just go there, meet the locals.
Oh, wow. You must share the link of this particular place. If someone's going there, they would love to book a place and stay there or something.
Yeah. So I think that's a different way of exploring Japan. I mean, I personally feel like because I almost go to Japan every year, and in recent years, there's also a lot of coverage in media about the over-tourism in Japan. And I personally also felt the declining service quality in Japan, despite the overall high quality, but compared to perhaps a few years ago, I noticed that the service people in Japan are getting a little bit impatient because maybe there are just too many foreigners sometimes.
And for me, what was A plus is for you was A, is it? Between then and now. Wow. I'm wondering what A plus would have been then. If you're saying that that what I experienced would have been like probably A or something. Phenomenal. Wow. Yeah, there were a lot of people when I was there. Again, because I'm coming from India, so this doesn't overwhelm me. The crowds did not overwhelm me at all. I was having a friend who was traveling maybe 3 weeks after me, and she kept asking me, is it like crazy, like how we are seeing on Instagram? And I said, really, no, you're not going to be overwhelmed. So don't worry. It really was very manageable. And like I said, the chaos is always there. There's a method to it. So somehow I'm noticing that all the places that you said were your favorites were towards the northern part of Japan. You're more of a mountain person, is it?
Yeah, I definitely like mountains, and I think in the northeast, it's just less crowds, and so you feel like it's just you and the place, and you kind of own the place, and that's definitely a bit different compared to like Kansai or something. And yeah, there's still places I want to visit. I haven't been to, like southern part of Kyushu. I heard a lot of great things about it. Yeah, I think one thing fascinating about Japan is I keep going back more than once every year. It still kind of maintains its charm because sometimes I feel like I'm feeling a bit jaded about certain places after visiting more than once. But Japan has managed to maintain its charm. It always delivers. But I think It's a place that just can't go wrong for most travelers.
Wow. That is really like, if you go for an appraisal and someone says something like this about you, you would be like, wow. So that's your review of Japan is just going seriously above and beyond. Um, what about southern places? So the popular Kyoto, Osaka, Hiroshima, Miyajima, those kind of places.
My favorite cities are definitely Tokyo and Kyoto, and they're vastly different. Obviously, I try to go to Kyoto like as much as I can, and there's just so many great temples there.
Yeah.
There a lot of them are worth visiting, and the city just maintains its charm everywhere. And I think one thing about Kyoto is that there are different ways to explore the cities, and there are suburbs. So this the East Mountains and the Western Mountains. I think they're great to visit, and I think there's just a lot of hidden restaurants and cafes you can also explore there. So I think that's one great thing about Kyoto. And now I try to go off the beaten track a little bit to explore the nearby towns like Nara. Yeah, there's a place called Koyasan I was wanted to visit. So there's a temple there. You can apparently stay there overnight with the monks. Talk to the
Oh, I've heard
monks.
about this, the place where you can stay with the monks. Yeah, but I've heard this stays. I don't know if it's the same one that both of us are talking about. There is one which is supposed to be really expensive,
It could be
but
one of
it's a
those.
very unique experience to actually stay with them in the shrine and all of it. The really means it was really expensive, and I went somewhere. I don't remember what was the amount, but someone mentioned this when I was in again one of the walking tour things. I love taking walking tours, so wherever I go, I take one. I get to meet a lot of people over there. Other co-travelers. I enjoy the guide. Very often the guide would be a student who's doing this in their spare time. So I love such conversations that I have. So I always do it when, the first day when I'm in some particular city, I'll go and take a walking tour, and then I start exploring it basis their recommendations and all of it. So many of the stories that, other travelers will share is from where I heard this specific one where you can stay at the shrine. But the shrines in Kyoto are something altogether. It's gorgeous, each one of them. And you hear of Japanese gardens. They're supposed to be so pretty. Every shrine has a Japanese garden, and each one of them is so beautifully manicured. One small stream flowing through. The trees are so beautifully cut, and you'll have a pebble here, and you'll have a Buddha there. It's very pretty, very cute.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyoto really has character. That's one city that has it's beautiful. I mean, for me, my first stop was Tokyo, and then from there we came to Kyoto. And I was there in Tokyo for maybe a week or so. So I thought I have nailed public transport and I can do everything now in Japan. Kyoto had no subway system. It was all buses and all of it as in main cities. I'm like, okay, now I have to relearn, the bus system over here. Of course, you just need an IQ of single digits to figure out how to travel in Japan. It's that beautifully intuitive. So every city was so different. And then from there we went to Osaka, and Osaka is just like a metropolis and all the glitter and the glam and the buildings. And I was like, oh my God, I had great shopping in Osaka. So I got all my Tiger Onitsukas and my Uniqlos and all those top things that I had to get. I got all of that from Osaka. Not Kyoto. Kyoto was beautiful. I loved Kyoto. I mean, for me, Kyoto and Tokyo were like really very close. I cannot say this was one and this was two, but both were great.
Right.
That was very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think that, because Kyoto, during its days, a lot of people say it was much learned from the Chinese city Chang'an in the Tang Dynasty. So it was structured in that way, and they share a lot of similarities in its architecture. But what happened is that in China, the oldest wooden architecture can only be traced back to about 850 years. But in Japan, those architecture, temples, and monasteries remained, there for 2,000 years or more.
Yeah.
So I think that's really pity that in some countries, probably due to history and wars, are not able to hold on to their local heritage. But in Japan, they remained intact. And there's another story that during the Second World War, when the U.S. Pacific Air Force was trying to bomb Japan with atomic bombs, there's an architect originally from China. He advised the U.S. government against bombing of Kyoto. So that kind of saved the city. So it's great that we can still see all these great things. It's fine.
Yeah, true. God, and your stories actually reminded me of Hiroshima. And the museum in Hiroshima, it's gorgeously well laid out, and the stories that they narrate really reminded me of what you just shared right now. Very beautiful, very highly, like one of the, again, my day in Hiroshima was fantastic. We had a beautiful person who was telling us stories about the place, and very moving. And the most phenomenal thing that he said was, so when the whole Hiroshima thing happened, apparently on the second day after the whole bombing happened, the city came back to life. The first tram, they used tram services, right? The first tram ran within 48 hours of this whole thing happening.
Wow.
So they said that was as quick as the turnaround that they did. Even now, actually, a lot of places, for example, if you go to all these Nazi places around Germany and all of that, when you go to those camps, you really feel terrible. Like that day, you will be the saddest. You cannot have a beer at night. You feel so bad because it was crazy atrocities. Hiroshima, what happened there was almost on the same level, I would say. But the way that they show the story somehow doesn't invoke a sad sentiment. They try to present it like, peace has won, and they somehow bring out a very positive note out of it. I don't know which is better, because what happened was really bad, and you have to call a spade kind of thing as well. So it was a very interesting, comparison that I felt when I was at Hiroshima. Interesting.
Yeah, I think all these sites about wars and people who lost their lives in the wars are quite interesting in Japan. So this is obviously one of those, and there's also the Yasukuni Shrine where they kind of commemorate the death in the war.
Tokyo, right?
Yeah, Tokyo has the main one. And then I just think, in a place like Hiroshima, you go to the museum, or Nagasaki, I went to the one in Nagasaki. As I realized that there's not a lot of reflection about using atomic bombs, and there's not a lot of reflection on that. I think because Japan is seen as the aggressor in the war, and so it's like the bomb that ended the war. And then if you go to the museum in the US, atomic bomb is celebrated as a heroic act in the end of the war, even though a lot of studies have proven that at the time Japan was already losing.
Yeah.
The movie Oppenheimer came out this year or the year before about the making of the atomic bomb.
Oppenheimer. So, what a movie. Yeah.
I think Oppenheimer kind of wanted to talk about the use of atomic bombs in the war, but I think it was just not enough discussion.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see the narrative.
Correct, very true. It's all the narrative this way or that way that they're saying. But then it's amazing to see how the society has changed from then to now. And I know, again, all these things is not society, it's all mainly political power and how they behave. It's rarely, trickles down to people and humans and all of that. But yeah. Now, Boyang, so you're going to continue going to Japan every year, because now it's become one of those, I have to do it kind of thing. It's a habit almost that started. But what are the other countries that are in contention for you, as I'm going to settle down here, again, settling down in quotes. What are the other countries that are in contention?
Wow, that's a brilliant question. For settling down.
Probably, yes. Or settling down, retirement, whichever.
Yeah, I think after moving around a bit around the world, definitely that question will come to mind, or maybe it's just a false premises. Maybe we don't have to set.
We don't need to, actually. We don't need to. But one place which you'll probably stay in more than the others when you are maybe retired. Maybe 6 months here, but 1 month everywhere else. So which is the 6 months here kind of place?
Yeah, I definitely have given some thoughts about this question. I think Japan remains to be one of those ideal places for me in many ways. I think Europe, as much as I love it and traveling around Europe, I kind of think it's probably not the destination for long term. I think it's that I love, the cultures here and experience you can have. But I think maybe it's the thing with aging. I just want to be somewhere that's kind of closer to home. And
Okay.
also either live it in a culture that's kind of adjacent to my own culture, or somewhere that's just kind of closer to heart. I mean, I love like French cuisine and pastry in Italy or whatever,
Mhm.
but it's just different when you just sit down in a tea house in Japan or somewhere in Asia. It just gives you, it's a different level of comfort, both for appetite, but also for your mindset. I just feel more at ease in Asia. And I think Japan just is one of those places that kind of managed to be Asian, but also very modern. And I think they managed to combine Asian culture, aesthetics with like a postmodernist twist or approach that just combines very well for me. So you keep things very traditional in many ways, but you also have access.
Yes, you have kiosks for everything else, for all
Yeah,
the modern
so I
approach.
think
That's crazy
yeah.
good.
So I think that's probably a good balance.
Yeah.
I lived in Singapore for a couple of years. I think Singapore is a great place
Mhm.
for many reasons. It unlocks a lot of great career opportunities. It's a hub for a lot of companies in
Mhm.
APAC. Tokyo is just not as international, and I guess the income level is not on par with some of these more international. But I guess you just can't get everything at the end of the day. You're right. You kind of realize places like Switzerland and Singapore, they offer good competitive salary, good career opportunities, but they just don't have a lot of culture or less options for adventures or
Mhm.
exploration. And then you have other places like Egypt that have plenty of room for adventurous history and culture. Like I sometimes I feel like I want to move to Egypt just for my love for Egyptian civilization. It just unlocks a lot of these things.
Yeah. So, Boyang, again, was going back to one of my episodes that I did on Egypt, where the guest said that after Egypt, every other place seems so blah because this is Egypt history is the oldest history. Egypt is just crazy. Throw a stone and you'll have one thing that is some BC level old, and things that
Yes.
I love Egypt as well. Okay, I mean after along with Jordan, maybe Egypt is also one of my when I think of the most coolest places, Egypt is also there. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like the things that are in contention for you. So maybe settling down during active working life would be either Singapore or something like that. And maybe beyond that, once you're closer to retirement, maybe Japan would come. Maybe
Right.
possible.
Yeah, sounds like
Yeah.
a
No,
good
and you
plan.
do have friends in Japan as well. So for us, I mean, for the lack of social life and the thing that you were talking about earlier, would be a big challenge for people who have not, who do not have a circle over there. You have that as well through, through your studying over there and other friend circles that you've made up elsewhere.
Yeah, I definitely cherish those friendships
Mm.
and somehow we try to keep it alive
Yes.
still. I remember one thing that's quite interesting is I met this guy in Waseda University back in the end of 2014, early 2015. And it's been like almost 7, 8 years and we didn't talk at all. And suddenly during the pandemic, when we were all, in some kind of lockdown somewhere in the world, I was in Singapore, he was in Japan. He reached out to me and said, "Boy, I'm having this bilingual language exchange weekly on Zoom. Do you want to join?"
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like kind of dying to, get back to Japan, Japanese culture. And so I kind of went on and I pretty much joined every single Zoom sessions. So he just brought these foreigners and Japanese to have a chat like every week. And it
Wow.
was just amazing. Yeah. And then we kept in touch and last time we went back to Tokyo we also I think it's amazing how these ties remain and despite the distance.
Yeah.
So I'm glad it's still there.
Very interesting. So how many languages are you fluent in?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm fluent in Japanese, and I think it's been
Okay,
deteriorating.
somewhat, somewhere there.
I would say five.
Five. Okay, which are these?
There's Chinese, English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Japanese. Still have a lot of work to do for my French, being kind of procrastinating.
Okay.
Hopefully.
So that's your next language in your list.
Right.
Oh,
Hopefully.
nice. That'll take care of most of your travel across Europe. French. And that's it, right? There's nothing. Is there anything else? Oh, of course, I mean, a little bit of Russian will help you in many of the other,
That's right.
many of the other countries and all of that. Yeah.
Or Arabic.
Or Arabic. Yeah. Correct. That's true. So have you been to,
Yeah.
countries like Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan and Georgia and all of those as well?
I slightly passed by Georgia and I was in Armenia for 2, 3 days because that was a spontaneous trip.
Mm-hmm.
I just decided not to go to Turkey directly, but from Iran. So I took a detour and went to Armenia. So definitely I want to go back to Georgia, and I haven't been to Central Asia, and that's like the top list for me right now for the next year or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you? What's on your list?
Central Asia is really top for me as well. So I haven't done any of these things. So for me, the whole Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Georgia, Armenia, all these places. So very recently, a very close friend went to Kazakhstan, and she says it is just phenomenal. That country is it's designed for people to stay active. And she said, it's just, I mean, you close your eyes, you rub your eyes, you open your eyes, it's gorgeous. Again, you close, rub, it's gorgeous. Every place is so pretty, and so cheap. Oh my God. She said we took an Uber, which had to move. So we finished an entire hike and we were exhausted. So the last 10 kilometers, something, they had to take a shared Uber or something, whatever it is, some vehicle. She said it was just 1,000 rupees. 1,000 rupees is what? Like 10 euros, 10 pounds.
Wow.
It was so cheap. It's not funny. The place is so cheap. Just that it's a big trouble for vegetarians, because other than camel meat and other meats, you get nothing. She said we had to only have bread and butter. It was really troublesome, but I'm not a huge foodie, so food does not,
It's not the main reason.
Yeah, design my vacation. I like eating good food. It's not that I don't. I mean, I loved the ramen. I loved, a lot of things that I had in Japan and every other place, but it does not design my vacation or a trip or something. But yeah. So definitely Central Asia is very high up. I have not done a lot of Africa as well. So I really want to do one of those Kenya. Definitely want to do one of those migration times and have that whole thing. So that's also something that's very high up on my list. I want to Rwanda and go to one of those gorilla tracking things, and I'm nuts about animals, so I really want one gorilla to go on my head and stand. I don't know what will happen to me. These are all things in my dreams. I love it. I want to like go near a lion and nonsense. I have such kind of stupid plans. Of course, not those zoo kind of lions, not that poor things. I really like wild ones. It'll never happen, but yeah, I have definitely like top of my list.
Well, sounds like we're very aligned in terms of our top of list travel destinations.
We'll meet
Central
somewhere
Asia,
in between.
Yeah, I'm sure. And East Africa, I guess.
Yeah. Lots of these places. Tell me one country that was, when you visited, you were not very, or you didn't have any much of expectations from it, but after you were just blown away kinds.
Okay. That's also a good question. What would that be? I think I would say some underrated cities in Europe, just based on my recent travel experience. Because most people tend to focus on like Paris, Rome.
Of course, yeah, that's true.
And I kind of realized there's some hidden gems, underrated cities like Turin in Italy. For me is a great place. It's often not super touristy, but it actually has one of the world's oldest Egyptian museums. It's in Turin.
Okay, wow.
Something I didn't expect, but they have a huge collection, very well protected mummies and
wow, things. I didn't even know that there's a connection. How? Or rather, why did it reach there?
I think the Italians were the first ones to have a love affair with Egypt. So they started during the Roman Empire, and they started to already ship a lot of these obelisks from Egyptian sites to Italy. So I later realized like Rome has 18 obelisks from Egypt. Wow, 18! Yeah. And so basically this Egyptian museum is celebrating its 200th year anniversary this year. So the love affair with Egyptianology has been there a long time, and I just discovered it last year.
Fascinating.
These are some of the hidden gems. Like I went to Glasgow, and it's very much of a city that reflects the heydays of the British Empire, but it kind of just stopped there in time. I mean, there's some recent developments, but you can see the highlights there were all developed during those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a city I visited with like very little expectation, but actually I thought it was more interesting compared to Edinburgh.
I mean, since we were around Edinburgh,
Mhm.
Stirling was one such place that also I had no expectations. I just thought, oh, we just going to stay there for a night and go ahead. So I really like
Okay.
Stirling.
Stirling, okay.
The castle there is just gorgeous. And it's also a very college town. So you can have fun. You can go to the castle. You can have all your, a beautiful tour of the place and, love the history and all of it. And then you can come out and have a great time in the evening. So it's a very nice mix of old and new experiences that you can have. There's another place like this that we went, which was near Istanbul. I'm trying to remember the name. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, it's Bursa, Bursa. I think it's
Okay.
one of the old capitals, also one of the old capitals of Turkey. Oh my God. And we kicked ourselves for not staying there for longer. We were driving across Turkey and Turkey, like now the new name. Oh, Bursa was beautiful. It was, again,
Interesting.
very old world charm, and it was really nice. But closer to home for you, home as in now Switzerland for you is we went. I'm really trying to remember the name, but I'm not able to remember. It's also one of those very college towns. It has a lot of breweries. You have the river flowing there, and people jump into the river and they burn. Yes.
Burn.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I'll kill myself thinking, what was it? What was it? What was it?
We did it. Yes.
Burn was so good. I mean, it was a day trip for us. And again, we were like, we kicked ourselves. Why don't we stay longer? But I loved Burn.
Burn is definitely one of those places I also found to be super charming.
Yeah,
and,
very charming.
Like a medieval town, and
yes,
just very different from Geneva, where I'm based in.
Yes, that's true. Geneva's it's also pretty for as a tourist who comes and visits the place, but otherwise there's not so much about the place. We also went to a very nice museum. There's an Olympic museum somewhere not very far from Geneva, right?
Oh, in Lausanne.
Lausanne, yeah. We went there, I think, at some 12 o'clock or 11 o'clock or something in the afternoon, and we came out because they had to drive us out at 5:30 or 6. Unbelievably good museum. We loved it. It's like in one of my favorite museums of the world that I visited. This Olympic Museum is joining that level, and I'm very fond of museums on the whole.
Then I'd definitely have to go. I haven't been there, so one more thing to do in Switzerland.
I'm telling you, Boyang, this podcast is so difficult for me. I have a lot of FOMO. My husband keeps telling me, I think you should start taking therapy for FOMO. Take therapy for FOMO. And then when I hear such stories, I'm like, oh man, you were narrating such lovely stories about this cycling trip and all that you did in Japan. I'm like, oh, I want to do it. I want to do it. It's getting at my FOMOs at very unhealthy levels, I tell you. Well, I'm sure there are, always great adventures out there waiting for us. Yes. So where next? Where have you planned your next vacation? So my next vacation would be in Europe, Bilbao. I heard that's also an underrated destination. Because I actually studied Spanish in university, and my professor from Spain told me, like this Bilbao, and there's a little town next to it called San Sebastian. It's like a really small town. They have the best food in Spain. So it's like they have like Michelin star restaurants. But also if you walk into any restaurant, like they have really good tapas and wine and chill. Apparently wine is cheaper than water in most of Spain, is what I've heard. I guess it probably is. So you'll have a happy vacation. Yeah, thank you. Wonderful, Boyang. I had such a nice time talking to you today. And, like I had told you once earlier, the number of stories that you have are so rich and so fun that we can actually do an entire season, misadventures of a sneaker, travel with Boyang across the world, kind of a whole season. So maybe we should do this again sometime soon, and maybe explore another set of experiences that you had, or another country or city. I really love talking to you.
Thank you so much, Rati. It's been a great conversation. I actually haven't, shared a lot of those stories with people, so it's great to have this nostalgic conversation about. Yeah, thanks again, and wish you all the best. And stay in touch.
Oh, definitely. We have to meet in one of these countries, right? So for sure.
For sure. Yes.
Definitely.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing such wonderful stories, Boyang. It honestly felt like we were cycling and camping and traveling right alongside you through the entire episode. Japan has a way of capturing hearts, and through your adventures, we've gotten a glimpse of why it keeps calling you back year after year. But honestly, this episode is a reminder that travel isn't really about the places or the countries that we go to. It's about the stories that we carry home. And thank you so much, Boyang, for sharing some of your stories with us. To my dear listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to follow the podcast for more travel adventures and misadventures. We are called Misadventures of a Sneaker on all platforms. Also, we've recently launched a travel journal, a journal that is perfect for everyone, no matter your age, where each page includes a fun prompt to spark creativity, whether you're writing, drawing, or sticking in little memorabilia. Pick one for yourself or gift it to your friend or to a kid. It will be a keepsake where your favorite moments will live and where a silly sketch will bring back a whole story. You will find the link to order the journal in our show notes. Happy journaling and see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.